All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. It is that time of the week, folks. My weekly picks in the world of the National Football League. On Thursday night, I picked the San Francisco 49ers to defeat the New York Giants at home, and that is exactly what they did. The Giants were already fighting an uphill battle against a team that some feel have what it takes to win the Super Bowl, and then definitely without the services of running back Saquon Barkley, that was even tougher. Now, with that said, we have a tremendous slate of games on tap for tomorrow, as well as another double header on Monday night. And with that said, here are my picks for week number 3 in this NFL season. Now you're going to have the 1-1 Tennessee Titans traveling to Cleveland to take on the 1-1 Browns as life for the Browns without Nick Chubb begins. For the Browns, their offense is struggling right now, most notably their quarterback, Deshaun Watson, is struggling. It's going to be interesting to see how quickly they can get Kareem Hunt up to speed. This game right here, I think, is tailor made for the Tennessee Titans with the way that they play football. Rain is scheduled on the forecast. The Titans are a tough defensive team, and you know that they are not going to go away from the run game with Derrick Henry. The first team to 20 more than likely is going to win this contest. I'm going to take Tennessee on the road by the score of 20-17. Now at Ford Field, it's those cardiac Detroit Lions with a record of 1-1 hosting the 2-0 Atlanta Falcons, who are taking their first road trip of the season. And I say cardiac Lions because that was their moniker for the most part last year. Basically, most of their games came down to the last play. Um, we've seen it begin this year. The 1-point win over Kansas City, the heartbreaking loss at home last week to Seattle. Now they got to try to find a way to get back on track. For the Falcons, they're another one of those teams like the Titans. You know what you're going to get. You're going to get a strong run game as they're going to look to shorten the contest. And for me, this game right here will speak of both of the mindsets of both head coaches. And I'm talking about Arthur Smith for the Titans, and then, of course, Dan Campbell for the Detroit Lions. And with that said, I think this is going to be a very physical game. It's going to be very back and forth affair. And when it's all said and done, I'm going to take Detroit to win at home by the score of 31-27. Now at Lambeau, it's the home opener for the Green Bay Packers, who come to town with a record of 1-1 as they're hosting the 2-0 New Orleans Saints. And of course, for Green Bay, they lost a heartbreaker last week on the road versus the Atlanta Falcons. And these New Orleans Saints, they are for real. You look at this Saints defense. Will they be able to get after Packers quarterback Jordan Love? We got to wait and see. And what can this Packers offense do against this Saints defense? That's going to be a big question. I'm also looking at this Saints offense. This is Derek Carr's second road game with the New Orleans Saints. How are he and this offense going to look in Green Bay? We got to wait and see. I think it's going to be a back and forth affair, but when it's all said and done, I'm going to take Green Bay to hold serve at home by the score of 24-20. Now in South Florida, you're going to have the undefeated Miami Dolphins, another team with their home opener on the season, hosting the winless Denver Broncos. Miami comes into this contest favored by 6.5 points, and for good reason. We've seen the explosiveness that the Dolphins have at the wide receiver position with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. And then this Denver Broncos team, they've lost two heartbreakers at home to begin the year. Now they take their show on the road. For me, I look at it like this Broncos offensive line going up against this Dolphins defense. Will Denver be able to hold serve? And the thing is this, if Denver gets behind early, will they be able to keep up with Miami? Because Miami has a track team over there between what they have at the edge rushing positions and what they have at the wide receiver positions. That's going to be tough for Denver to handle. And because of that, I'm going to take Miami at home by the score of 31-19. Now, a classic toss up tomorrow as you're going to have the winless Los Angeles Chargers traveling to take on the winless Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota comes into this contest favored by a point. But for me, this is a classic pick 'em. And I say that because you've got two teams that can find ways to win games and two teams that can find ways to lose games. And honestly, that's what we've seen so far. We saw the Vikings begin this season. They got dominated at home by the Bucks, and then they lost a heartbreaker on Thursday night in week number 2 to Philadelphia. The Chargers, on the other hand, we've seen them in both of their first two games of the season. They found a way to lose, and that honestly, to me, that's carried over from last year. A lot of talent on both of these squads, especially at the wide receiver position for both of these teams and at the quarterback position. But I think this game is going to come down to who can run the football and which defense can stop somebody. There's too much talent for the Chargers to be 0-2. There's too much talent for the Vikings to be 0-2 as well. Somebody has to win this game, and somebody's going to back into a win tomorrow. I'm going to take the Chargers by the slightest of slightest margins, 31-30. Now at MetLife Stadium, you're going to have the winless New England Patriots looking to get on the board this year as they're taking on the 1-1 New York Jets. And for New England, in spite of the fact that they have not won a game this season, they do come into this contest favored by 2.5 points, and for very good reasons. Number one, Patriots head coach Bill Belichick has had his way with the New York Jets throughout his NFL career, and he's also been a master of confusing young quarterbacks along the way. And for Zach Wilson, after he came off the bench to help the Jets beat the Buffalo Bills in week number 1, it was basically the same old Zach Wilson last week again after he went up against a very tough Dallas defense. Now he's got to go up there with the maestro, and I'm talking about Bill Belichick, and he's arguably one of the best in NFL history as far as coaching up a defense and designing a defense to go out there and confuse even the best of quarterbacks. For the New York Jets, they're going to have to rely on their defense. So we've known that ever since Aaron Rodgers went down with the injury. The Jets are going to have to win ugly. The Patriots are trying to win ugly as well. And I think this game is going to come down to field position and turnovers. But when it's all said and done, I think the Patriots' dominance over the Jets continues. Is I'm going to take them to win a squeaker at the Meadowlands by the score of 19-17. Now in Maryland at FedEx Field, you're going to have the 2-0 Washington Commanders hosting the 1-1 Buffalo Bills. Washington comes into this game as 6-point underdogs, and honestly, I don't think enough people are respecting this team. They went out there, they had a hard fought win against Arizona at home in week number 1. They had that big comeback win on the road last week against Denver. And for me, I'm really interested to see the matchup between the defensive line of Washington and this offensive line of Buffalo. Washington arguably has the best defensive line in football. And if you let them get into a rhythm and get going, that can be a problem. For me, I think Buffalo, we know with the connection that they have between quarterback Josh Allen and wide receiver Stephon Diggs, but Buffalo, to me, I think they need to get their running game going to try to slow down and neutralize what the Washington Commanders can do with that D line. Sam Howell, Ron Rivera went to bat for his young quarterback in the preseason, and he's sticking with him, man. Guess what? This team believes in Sam Howell. And for me, I don't think that Washington's getting enough respect either. And I'm going to take the Commanders in this one by the score of 30-26. Now in Jacksonville, you're going to have the 1-1 Jags hosting the winless Texans, and this is an opportunity for the Jags to go 2-0 in the division. Remember, they beat Indianapolis in week number 1. Tough loss last week for Jacksonville against Kansas City. Now they come back and take on a team that they are expected to beat as Jacksonville comes into this contest favored by 7.5. This young Texans defense will make life tough for quarterback Trevor Lawrence. I'll tell you like this, D'Amico Ryans can coach up a defense. You got some young talent on that side of the ball. So this is not going to be they're not going to be a pushover, if you will, in this contest. But with that said, Houston still has to go out there and score points. I'm not sure if there's enough cohesiveness for this young offense and quarterback CJ Stroud as of yet. Thus, I'm going to take Jacksonville at home by the score of 24-16. Now in Baltimore, you're going to have the undefeated Ravens hosting the 1-1 Indianapolis Colts. Indy comes into this contest as an 8-point underdog, and for very good reason. Baltimore's playing some good ball, And then on top of that, they're not expected to have the services of rookie quarterback Anthony Richardson. The Ravens have a slew of injuries on both sides of the football right now, but at the end of the day, you still got Lamar Jackson. He's gotten off to a strong start, and I think that strong start has an opportunity to keep going in this one. Thus, I'm going to take the Ravens at home by the score of 29-17. Now, out in the Pacific Northwest tomorrow, you're going to have the 1-1 Seattle Seahawks hosting the winless Carolina Panthers. And for Carolina, they got to go out there and try to do it without their rookie quarterback, Bryce Young. But don't worry, you got a veteran who's been there and done that in Andy Dalton. And I don't think Andy Dalton is going to be like a deer in headlights in this one. Andy Dalton has seen his fair share of what life takes, or what life is rather, for a starting quarterback in the NFL. So I think this Panthers offense will definitely be okay. Now, with that said, you look at what Seattle has at the wide receiver position: Tyler Lockett, the rookie Jackson Smith and Jengba, as well as the big man DK Metcalf. I think that's going to be too much for the Carolina secondary tomorrow, especially now that linebacker Shaq Thompson's done for the year for the Panthers. And with that said, I'm going to take Seattle to roll at home by the score of 34-20. Now, out Arrowhead, you're going to have the defending Super Bowl champions, the Kansas City Chiefs, hosting the winless Chicago Bears. Kansas City comes into this contest favored by 12 and a half points, and for very good reason. We know what the Chiefs can do on offense, as they are a cohesive unit. Can't say the same about what the Bears are doing on offense, as it's been almost a full calendar year since Chicago won a game. We've heard about the infighting this week. We heard about what Justin Fields has said, but at the end of the day, the Chicago Bears are just not a very good football team. And I think that will be on display tomorrow, as I'm going to take Kansas City to double up on the Bears by the score of 34-17. Now, in the desert, you're going to have the winless Arizona Cardinals hosting the 2-0 Dallas Cowboys. Dallas comes into this contest favored by 13 points, and I guarantee you this: State Farm Stadium will definitely sound like AT&T Stadium tomorrow, because you're going to have a lot of Cowboy fans making the trek from Texas. Obviously, there are a lot of Cowboy fans everywhere, and there are a lot of people who believe in this team. Dallas has not been tested as of yet on this early season, and I don't think that they're going to be tested once again in this one. I think this defense will be able to tee off on this Arizona offense, which is led by quarterback Josh Dobbs. So for all of you fantasy buffs out there, if you got the Cowboys defense, definitely start them in this one. Dak Prescott really won't have to do too much in this contest, because I think the Dallas defense alone can go out there and win this one. But I am going to take the Cowboys to roll big by the score of 37-17. Now, on Sunday night, it's going to be a party in Vegas, as it's the age-old rivalry. Doesn't sound the same because the Raiders aren't in Oakland anymore, but nonetheless, the silver and black will be hosting the black and gold, as it's the 1-1 Steelers getting it on with the 1-1 Raiders. Now, for Jimmy G, the Raiders starting quarterback, he's going to have his hands full tomorrow night, trying to navigate that very tough and stingy Pittsburgh Steelers defense. Offensively, I think Pittsburgh is going to get better as the season progresses. More importantly, I think Kenny Pickett is going to get better as the season progresses, and I don't see this Raiders defense rather being able to slow down this Pittsburgh offense. And I do see the Steelers defense forcing at least one turnover from Jimmy Garoppolo. Thus, I'm going to take the Steelers on the road tomorrow night by the score of 23-20. And moving on to Monday night, first, you're going to have the Philadelphia Eagles, who are 2-0, taking on the surprising 2-0 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, the Eagles come into this contest favored by 5 points, but one question is for me: will Jalen Hurts be able to navigate through that coveted Tampa 2? We've got to wait and see. We know about the talent that Philadelphia has on offense, and I think they're going to try to lean on their running game, in spite of the fact that they still have Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown at wide receiver. This is going to be a very tough test for the Bucks. I mean, a lot of people expected the Bucks to be one of the worst teams in the NFL this season. Obviously, they surprised in their first game of the year by beating the Vikings. They took care of their business against the Bears. The Eagles are a different breed, and I think we're going to see that on Monday night, as I'm going to take Philadelphia on the road by the score of 30-20. And finally, in the Queen City of Cincinnati, it's a rematch of the Super Bowl from several years ago, as you're going to have the winless Bengals taking on the 1-1 Los Angeles Rams. And for Cincinnati, it's gone from bad to worse. The expectations were high for this team coming into the season. They're 0-2. They're 0-2 in the division. And that calf injury that lingered for quarterback Joe Burrow in the preseason has now flared up once again. Burrow is questionable at quarterback for the Bengals, and now they've got a tiger by the tail, no pun intended, trying to deal with this Rams team. The Rams are 1-1, but they have a lot of confidence. They're playing much better than they were over the second half of this season. Quarterback Matt Stafford is back. I know that the Rams just made a trade this week, but nonetheless, you still got Stafford running that offense. You still got Aaron Donald on that D line. And I think it's going to be enough, as I'm going to take the Rams on Monday night to get the 24-17 win. So, folks, those are my picks for week number 3 of this NFL season. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Now, I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out, drop a line, and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I am signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.